Dostoyevsky once wrote, "Man is sometimes extraordinarily, passionately in love with suffering." It sounds insane, doesn't it? Why would anyone love suffering? But Dostoevsky knew suffering better than almost any writer in history. He was dragged to a courtyard, blindfolded, told he would die in front of a firing squad. He felt the final seconds of life, and then, at the last moment, his sentence was reduced to prison. He spent years in Siberia, locked in freezing barracks, surrounded by criminals, living in chains. He battled epilepsy. He drowned in debt. He gambled away what little he had. And out of all that, he wrote the greatest work of Russian literature, because for him, suffering was not the end of life. It was the beginning of the consciousness. In Crime and Punishment, Raskolnikov believes he can escape morality, that this intellect frees him from consequences. But his suffering, his guilt, his torment, his punishment becomes his redemption. In The Brothers Karamazov, Ivan wrestles with the suffering of innocent child, asking how can a just world allow this? Dostoevsky doesn't solve the riddle. He shows us that suffering is the weight that binds humanity together. To Dostoevsky, suffering is not a curse to escape. It's a mirror. It shows us who we truly are when everything else is stripped away. Now look at us today. We live in the most comfortable age in history. Air conditioning, instant food delivery, endless entertainment, and thousand channels of distraction in our pockets, right? And yet depression rises, suicide rises, addiction rises. We've eliminated pain, but we have not eliminated despair. Think about it. When we feel even a little discomfort, we reach for something to numb it. Scrolling for hours through TikTok or Instagram. Popping pills just to feel level. Streaming another session. Another distraction. Another escape. We've built a society where the goal is to never feel pain. But Dostoevsky would tell us, by eliminating suffering, we are eliminating the very thing that wakes us up. The very thing that makes us human. Why do people feel empty after hours of social media? Because there is no struggle in swiping a finger. Why do so many relationships collapse? Because we've lost the will to endure hardship together. We move on at the first sign of discomfort. Why do young men fall into despair? Because society tells them their suffering is meaningless. Sometimes to medicate or ignore rather than transform into strengths. And look at our culture. What gets rewarded online? Cheap provocations, nudity, outrage. We glorify the shallow and ridicule the profound. We celebrate noise and forget meaning. But Dostoevsky would laugh bitterly at this. He would remind us real growth, real connection, real faith only comes through what we endure. One man, crushed by epilepsy, prison, and poverty, left behind words that still shake us today. That is what suffering can create. Not distraction, not legacy. That is why I started this challenge. To begin at zero. To walk deliberately into struggle to see if one man in today's world can rise without selling out, without baring his body, without chasing the cheap applause of the internet. Tired of seeing people make their living out of nudity, out of self-destruction, out of everything shallow. I want to prove something different, that society still has a pulse, that there is still intellect, still empathy, that people are willing to help each other when given the chance. This challenge is not just about me, it's a mirror. It's about us. Dostoyevsky believed suffering connects us. He believed it makes us capable of compassion. When one man suffers and another shares that burden, it creates meaning. There is why experiment exists, because I believe society can still choose meaning over numbness, and if I'm wrong, then let this challenge expose that truth. But if I'm right, then together we can change direction. The goal is to reach 1 mil. Not 1 mil viewers, not 1 mil likes, but 1 mil raised. Why? Because when that happens, I will have proof that society is not hollow, proof that people are willing to choose intellect and empathy over cheap entertainment, proof that we can still build something higher, something real. This is not about me asking for help, it's about us showing the world that we still know how to help each other. Even the smallest gesture matters. $1 matters, because it says I refuse to be part of the numb, empty parade. I chose meaning. When this challenge is complete and the 1 mil is reached, I will step out from the shadows. The mask will come off, and together we will know what suffering has built. Until then, this is Doctrine.